Hey guys, how's it going? It is October 8th, 2022 on a Saturday night, 9 p.m. Eastern. And, well, looks like my baseball watching is over as my team just got eliminated. So, good news about that is it frees up some time for me. More time to be at the computer. So, I don't know. You watch 100, like I said, like my son was saying, I'm like, I already felt this the other day. I was like, man, yeah, you watch a 162 game season and just like, whoops, there he goes. It's like, well, eventually they're either going to get eliminated or they're going to win the World Series. Anyways, but enough of that. Well, I shouldn't say thankfully it's over, but if it was going to be over, thankfully it's over. Now I can get back to spending a little bit more of my free time doing other things. But yeah, it was cool. Definitely a Jays fan, but hey, what can you say? Anyways, enough of baseball. Let's get on to topics here that I wanted to discuss. Hey Bob, how's it going? So tonight I want to go over some various things here. I'm going to just put this over here so I can read my chat. I know that's a little bright. Yeah, that's really a little bright. Here, we'll keep that over here. We'll keep that a little here so it's not so bright, but I still want to be able to see my chat anyways, so. Can I do something else? Can I pop out this chat? Doesn't matter? No, actually, forget it. That's okay. That's the way we do things around here. So yeah, I wanted to go over. Yeah, let's just minimize this here, like that. Does that work? That's good enough to me. Okay, so so what I wanted to do is I wanted to take this time right now and now that I got all my there's Scott. Yeah, I told you. Scott was bored to death, so wanted to. I had already planned on doing this anyways, but I wanted to go over the various train simulators that are out there and try to give an honest comparison as to what's out there, what's good, or and this is obviously going to be opinionated. It's going to be biased. I'm going to like to play a different way than somebody else would, but hopefully I go over enough. And of course, it's going to go over my experience. And you take it with a grain of salt or take it however you want. But I use this in a way to see, basically, try to get an idea as to what's out there. Number one, what I can commit to, or what I want to commit to, or what do I feel like committing to. And it also gives me a feasibility analysis of development. So knowing what to develop and how much effort I want to put into something or what I need to do, you need to know what's out there and what others, I mean, if you want to basically recreate the wheel, I mean, good luck. First of all, you got to develop a serious program, and considering the fact that the only software that I've really developed is text-based application command-based programs for the most part. A little bit of visual. I've done a little bit of visual programs in the past, but this is years ago on a Commodore 64, so it really doesn't count in the modern day. But anyways. Enough of the techno babble. Let's just get on to the various. Let's get on to the various software out there. So I can start off right off the top with Microsoft Train Simulator / OpenRails. Now, OpenRails has taken what the original Microsoft Train Simulator software was able to do to the point where it's its own standalone program now, as far as I'm aware. I had looked at a previous version of it for a little bit, I didn't really get that involved with it. It was still, fairly, I wouldn't say fairly early in development. I don't even know when I looked at it, but it must have been a while ago. I don't know how long it's been in existence. I couldn't even tell you. But I looked at that, and I believe it's got better editors. It's got basically does everything that Microsoft Train Simulator does, except it tries to do a better job, I believe, of the editors. I don't know how user friendly they are. I really don't. Honestly, I don't know much about OpenRails, so I'm not going to speak too much upon OpenRails. But what I can speak is how Microsoft Train Simulator first came onto the scene, and how it basically became the first big train simulator that really started, I would say, this sub niche. It was always, I think, going to happen one way or another, because before Microsoft Train Simulator, there was text-based simulators, there was dispatching software. I'm not getting into dispatching software into this, but there was various programs that was out there that was dealing with not only the dispatching and yard operations and all that other stuff, but, well, not really so much yard operations, but actually dealing with the running of a train. Siam was one of the first ones that I didn't list here. I won't even count that. Microsoft Train Simulator, the reason why I mention that now is it's still in existence, and I thought this would be, it's still very viable today, and it has a large, I think it has probably a larger database of freeware or shareable both routes, models, everything that's can be basically available on sites like TrainSim and other places, I imagine. So there's access to tons of content. So if you want a lot of content, and you're looking to say you're looking for an area that is closer to home, like, I mean, there's a lot of routes in my area. I don't think anybody's ever done Niagara. I was going to do it a long time ago, but I gave up on the editors way back when. I used to play around with the activity editors quite a bit, but there were those that I know who did do actual routes. Balasub was kind of a fond one that I had purchased. It was payware route. There was also MacTier Sub. There was the Greater Toronto area. There was the Niagara Corridor. All somewhat near me, but not quite where I am, but more, a little bit more traffic. Of course, this is where it gets wonky, because you try to simulate the traffic patterns, and that was my frustration with Microsoft Train Simulator all the time, is you try to simulate the traffic patterns, or the AI. They do have an AI, but it's more of a scripted AI. I don't know how much OpenRails has improved upon this. I know they have tried. If they've succeeded, I really don't know. But that's something that's out there. To me, it's more of content over, it was more content / abandonware, now taken over by the community, and it still has a very large following. So if you've never seen it, you might want to look into it. If you're new to train simulations, I would certainly take a look at it. It's, as far as I know, it's most everything you can get is free, but it's not going to give you the latest up-to-date graphics, as far as I know. There might be some newer versions in OpenRails that might. I have no idea. But that's all I can say about that. Now, I don't know what that is. Trains was something that also came out around the time of Microsoft Train Simulator. I think it came out after Microsoft Train Simulator. It too also has a very large database. The difference between Microsoft and Train Simulator, between Microsoft Train Simulator and Trains, as far as the database goes, is Trains hosts it on their own servers. Of course, there are places you can get Train stuff, but they're harder to find, and usually the Train servers actually is the more preferred location because of who knows what. I don't know, but a lot of people use it. A lot of people pay money to access it. I have spent $15 in Trains. The version was 2019, even though it's been out. I actually bought the original version of Trains, I think, way back a long time ago. Like I said, around the time Microsoft Train Simulator was out, I bought a version of Trains, and then I hadn't bought it for years, and then I bought Trains Railroad Simulator 19. Didn't have my old version anywhere. I still had my access because I had my my Aran account or whatever, and to this day, my son still uses Trains 2019. I was using it for a while, mainly to develop a route. I was trying to develop the Niagara region. I became a little bit frustrated, not because of the software, but because of the difficulty of getting the route down. And then, again, I started doing feasibility as far as, okay, once I get this route down, what the hell am I going to do with it? Am I going to be able to do what I can in something like a Run 8? And the answer I got back to was no. At the time, Trains had the best AI. It had a better AI than Run 8 version 2. I would say. It had a way of routing traffic around. It also did a few other complex things. So there was a little bit, but the only thing was it didn't really have, and it does have multiplayer, but it doesn't have a multiplayer like Run 8. And it was also able to do, like I said, it would be able to do a little bit of pathing. It also it had. It had some interesting, how would you say, like loads and empties and various cargo types, and supply and demand, which was kind of intriguing actually, because you could supply a coal plant, or a power plant with coal, and I guess that's a bad example. I would say like a lumber mills, and supplying a paper plant with lumber, and paper would come out at the other end of it, and so it was kind of neat in that respect. But as far as being able to download routes, I spent $15 on 2019. It was on sale, and I never really gone back into it again. I bought a copy for my son. And my son still goes into it, and he creates all kinds of routes. So he loves creating routes. And he can download whatever assets he needs, a little at a time. The complaints and difficulties that a lot of people talk about with Trains is the backwards compatibility between versions, routes that don't have, that have assets that aren't quite updated or whatever. I don't know all the details of it, but I know a lot of people complain about it. Personally, I've never had the issue, but I can't speak to that because I don't run multiple routes with Trains. So I really don't know. Run 8, I probably have the most experience in, even more than Microsoft Train Simulator when I first started. Run 8, I have approximately 10 years experience in. I was involved in the beta team project before the original release of version 1. I wasn't brought in very early on. I was actually brought in I was probably one of the late people to be brought on as far as a beta tester. And I was with the beta team, I think, on 3 different occasions, if I recall, or 2 occasions. Was it be 2 or 3? I don't know. At least 2 occasions, maybe 3. I forget. But, whatever. There was reasons as to, I won't get into with this video as far as why you know, actually, I sometimes don't even know the reasons why. But for whatever reasons, eventually I was no longer part of the beta team, and that became permanent. And I got, no issues with the team. Doesn't seem to have too many issues with me that I'm aware of, and they do their own thing, whatever. Run 8, I was still running, no pun intended, but I was still using version 3 up to probably, I would say, I guess it's been a little over a month now. Sometime in the summer, I would say. Late summer, towards the end of late summer. And then I decided to take a break from it. It wasn't, the program itself is fine. I just was getting tired of, what was out there. This is by far the best version. This brought me back into Run 8. I was actually away from Run 8 for a couple of years, and I was exploring other software, which I'll get into later on. But like I said, Run 8 I put chronologically because it's been around for a long time, and it continues to have updates. Not as much as it used to. It doesn't update as often, but then again, it's pretty much a complete software now, I mean, for the most part. I don't know what's going on. I don't know what the latest updates are that are coming down. They just had an update not too long ago, just before I had put it to the side for a while. I think it was in the late summer. And it is, I would say it's the best train simulator on the planet as far as simulation, as far as physics and feeling like a real train. There's a lot of engineers and people who've worked for the railroads who can attest to that and who have helped the project. It is not as well known as some of the bigger ones like Trains and Microsoft, or even a Train Sim World, which I'll get to, but it is certainly one of the best gems out there, I would say. As far as graphics, it doesn't have the best. It certainly has adequate graphics as far as I'm concerned. It's got not real world, it's got good weather conditions, weather patterns, and precipitation now, version 3. It has AI traffic. It also has AI dispatching, probably the best AI dispatching out there. In fact, very few have done what Run 8 can do as far as AI dispatching. People have done AI trains ever since the Microsoft Train Simulator days. But the AI dispatching is incredible. It's not perfect, but it is better than anything else out there that I'm aware of. And, of course, the big thing that's always been big for Run 8 is multiplayer. It is the best multiplayer. And I think a little known asset, too, is being an open world and being able to have all the routes that you want to combine in is very, very cool. Like, you're able to save this sandbox, save it, go back to it, and continuation. Like, being able to have a great world save program. You can save, weeks, months, years of activity of particular territory. You can still add on to the territories as well, but it's good. The amount of regions and the amount of content that's available out there is somewhat limited. There's 3 regions. There's 4 regions now that take you at pretty much different corners of, I wouldn't say 4 corners, but at least 3 of the everything except the Pacific Northwest, I guess. But it has the Northeast, the Southeast, the Southwest. There's 2 in the Southwest, both in Southern California. It has a big, huge region that stretches all the way down to Nevada. Is it Nevada? Yeah, I think so. No, Arizona. No, Arizona. I'm thinking Nevada's the other one. That's more Northern California or Central California or whatever the fuck it is, somewhere out there. But anyways, I'm pretty good at geography. I just can't picture it at the moment. But that's a more smaller region, up by up to Reno, Nevada, into the other part, the rest of California that connects to it, up to that area. So California into Nevada. But anyways, it's pretty cool. It's I think it's still lacking a lot, but then again, they're more about developing their own routes, having their own teams, and basically providing all the content to the software. So there's really there's no editors, there's no real user content that's available. That's the one disadvantage you could probably say to Run 8. Of course, it may be an advantage that it's not, because it creates less problems and it's much more controlled that way, but I can see that being an issue. Also, there's, because of that, there isn't that many territories, because you're only having a limited number of people developing routes and regions. Freight Yard Manager is more of a it's more of a 2D version. It actually took over from something I think was called Yardmaster or Yard Duty. So Yard Duty was a software that was out there, and the Freight Yard Manager comes out there. I believe it is free. Yeah, it is free. And what it is a basically it's multiplayer, but it's not really online. Sort of. It's not interactive at the same time. It's sort of like turn-based. So what happens is you manage trains that come in. You process the trains on your maps. There's several maps all across, I think, just North America, and you basically process the trains on those maps. The ones who can process more trains usually get bigger territories. This also involves, one thing I should have mentioned about Run 8 is they have active humps as well. That's a key one, actually. It's a very important one, because there's no other 3D programs that I'm aware of that does that. Freight Yard Manager does it in 2D, and they do that pretty good. Freight Yard Manager, you can be controlled of a lot of the major yards. Pretty much any major yard is actually available to Freight Yard Manager. It has the widest distribution of North America, but it doesn't deal with the main lines in between. It deals with, there's some key junctions, but for the most part, it deals with yard operations. So that's what it's dealing with there. The key benefits to it, of course, is the interaction with others, and being able to run yards and operate them. Disadvantage, of course, is the graphics. Obviously, it's 2D. The other disadvantage, I think, is not being able, or it's not pay to play, but it's actually how much time you're able to put into it gives you the bigger territories. So if you're someone who has a lot of time on your hands, chances are, and if you start early and if you keep into it, you can wind up with some pretty big territories. If you don't, you get left with these little small rinky-dink yards. So it's not as fun for those who don't have as much time. So that kind of, it's kind of like the pay for play when you talk about massive multiplayer stuff. The pay for play is something where you have to put in money. Now here you don't have to put in money, but you have to put in time. If you can't put in that amount of time, you don't get to participate and say. Now I remember there was a time where I had a lot of time on my hands and I got to experience it. I got to handle like places like Oakwood and Detroit. I used to be able to handle like 3 yards at once. I would handle Oakwood and Detroit. I would handle Toronto Mac Yard near to me, so that was the big yard, hump yard here in Canada. And I think I handled a smaller yard in Hamilton. But once I was a little bit busier and had a full-time job or whatever, because I don't think I was working, or who knows what the hell I was doing then, but all of a sudden, either that or relationships or who knows what, but I didn't have as much time to put into it. Suddenly you can't handle as many trains that are coming in and out, and suddenly you have to give up those yards because you just have this backlog. So let me just read the comments here. Freight Yard Mayor is just wonderful. It's government become topics once once Jim Hill stepped aside. Well, I mean, yeah, I don't want to get into the various things, like, as far as it is what it is. I mean, you had different people, and I had issues. Like, if you talk about Jim Hill, I had issues with, if I recall, with Jim Hill. So I mean, but then again, it was his puppy, not mine. So, anyways, because I had ideas, but my ideas don't always make it. So hey, no big deal. But and then what else is going on? I have no idea as far as that goes. Moving on here. So, Railroads Online. This was something that I started looking at right around when I was getting a little bit bored of Run 8 version 2. And actually, I wasn't so much bored of Run 8 version 2. We were in between versions. We were waiting for version 3, and we didn't know if it was ever going to come out. So I got tired of waiting, and I just decided, well, since I'm not hearing anything, and it'll be ready when it's ready, I just decided, I'm going to go try something else. And I did. And I tried Railroads Online. So Railroads Online is still being developed. It's fairly new. It's I think it's a couple years old now. Railroads Online is a simulator. It's a Steam simulation, but it's based in it's not based in anything really. There's one map, one fair-sized map that you basically build your own tracks across a 3D world landscape, and there are certain areas that are kind of carved out in a way where you can find easy grades, but you still have somewhat control over what kind of yards you want to put in and where you want to put your sidings. And there's different options as to where you can put your various lines. I found it kind of revolutionary at the time because I really thought this was neat. And I mean, I was really into it for a while. And the thing I found, though, I found very quickly, even though there was multiplayer, I found out that the people who were playing with me were not getting a very good experience because the client end really sucked. I don't know how much it's improved. I know they're working on it, or maybe they have. I think they've changed some of the versions up. It might be doing some things now. I'm not too sure, but I kind of gave up on it the moment Run 8 version 3 hit, and once I found out it had AI dispatching. And AI humps, by the way, too. That was another thing. The AI humps was new for version 3 for Run 8. All of that just said, okay, I gotta try it. At the very least, I had to try it. And once I tried it, I was hooked on it. And, I ran that for a while. Got a few people on a server, and didn't really go too far as the number of people on the server, so I never really was able to handle too much traffic, unfortunately. But anyways, I'll get to that in a few minutes. But Railroads Online, I really never went back to. Railroader is the newest one out of this list. So Railroader is coming out in 2023. If you go to my Discord, I've subbed into screenshots that pretty much appear on a daily basis of what it looks like. It's based on the transition era. So the transition era is where you have steam and diesel. So the diesel coming in while steam is still operating. Like 50s or whatever the heck it is. There's still semaphore signals. There's only 13 miles of it. The graphics are really good. I believe I think it's Unreal. I'm not too sure if it's Unity or Unreal. I can't remember if it's Unity or Unreal. I knew this not too long ago, but anyways, the graphics are great. And honestly, a couple months ago, what I saw from different live streams, it looked like that program was already good enough to be sold. But they have decided to wait. They've decided to hold off and get a full version out in 2023. They want to make sure everything's right. Kudos to that. That's actually kind of there's a pro and a con to that. The pro to that is you look at that and you see the guys who are running this, and it's just like, yeah, we want a quality version. The negative side of it is I had this buzz, and then now now you start thinking about it. And you start thinking about, well, it's only 13, and could it be repetitive? And then you kind of lose that buzz that you first felt, and you're not sure. But nonetheless, it's an easy buy for me. I'm going to do that. Right now, I'm running software. The biggest application or biggest game that I run right now is not even train related. It's something called Medieval Dynasty, which has nothing to do with trains. But I'm still very much addicted to that. I'm just taking a break right now, and I'll probably go back at it later on. Let me check comments a little bit more. Oh, I missed Train Sim World. Oh, I skipped Train Sim World. Oh, gee, heaven forbid. I know what you mean. Okay. So, before Railroads Online, yeah, Train Sim World. Train Sim World was something that came out, I believe, after Run 8. A lot of people in Run 8, at least, from what I could tell, and some of the not so happy bandwagoners over at a particular Run 8 group thought that Train Sim World was the second coming of who knows what. But Train Sim World came out, and it looked impressive. It looked very impressive. In fact, it had more controls. It had more. You had to do a lot more to start up an engine. There was all kinds of added little details. The problem is the physics suck, and they never really improved upon it. I bought it for free. I was able to buy the original copy for free. And you talk about where Run 8, you can take advantage of every track. Ditto with trains, Microsoft Train Simulator, all of them. Train Sim World is the one exception, because there is a yard up at Cumberland, I think it is, that actually is a hump. I can live with the hump not being accessible. What I can't live with is not having enough train or yard operations. And they're all activity-based. Everything's activity-based, and of course you don't really get an editor to do anything with it. Even though editors are something that, despite the fact that Unreal is the game engine, you can put editors into Train Sim World. You can put editors in there to put activities. You don't need world editors. World editors are tough to do, but Train Sim World is now onto Train Sim World 3, and it barely looks different than version 1. You compare that to Run 8 and what Run 8 version 1 looks like between now and then, over 10 years. Run 8 version 1 was great. It was great then. They got the physics right and all that other stuff. They didn't have all that AI. It wasn't until 2 where the AI started coming in and other features, and then, the graphics got a little better, and by the time Run 8 version 3 came in and the content that was available, it just kept on building and building, and it's going to continue to build. I have no doubts that these guys are going to keep on going. There's stuff in development right now. I'm sure there's going to be future feature changes. There was talk about movable bridges. They do have turntables, although I haven't really seen it because it's only in Los Angeles that I'm aware of. But Train Sim World had a turntable. It was cool. Really neat looking. They did it before Run 8. And they had a few other things. I think they even had a transfer table, if I'm not mistaken. But you can't... Once you go through all the activities, it's done. And you can't really operate and use your own judgment as far as how to operate a train. You got to follow this bouncing ball. So even though there's multiple ways to switch an industry or do switching, you have to follow it exactly. It's very similar to the activity editor in Microsoft Train Simulator, actually. Because the activity editor in Microsoft Train Simulator... Now, Microsoft Train Simulator, at least their activities, if they're done right, will let you do it any way you want. Because there's no, data boy, here's some points for you, and clap, clap, clap. You can have it so that you can just basically run open-ended activities. And you can still have your AI scripted trains and a few other things. You can even have randomly generated AI trains with different add-ons, which I've done. Although they don't work as well as the AI, so I imagine Train Sim World would probably do the same thing. But there's ways of doing this, and they've never given... it's just horrible. It's just hot garbage. People still buy it, and as long as people keep buying it and buy the new routes because they like running trains from point A to point B, they're going to just keep on buying that hot garbage. If you like that kind of thing, this is the best graphics out there. Have fun. It's nice eye candy, but that's about all it is. It's not really a simulator of anything. It's I don't know, whatever. But I'm not very impressed with Train Sim World. It had the most potential that never made it. And a lot of people thought that was going to be the one that was going to beat out Run 8. Just the way it was looking, and I remember looking back at it, I was like, ooh, wow, this Train Sim World's coming out. It's going to do all kinds of amazing things and blah, blah, blah. It didn't do nothing to them. Run 8's... Run 8 compared to Train Sim World as far as the actual operations of a train and the actual management of yards and the operation, the saves, the ability to just have that open world to yourself and be able to run it however the hell you want to run it without having to follow activities, AI trains, AI yards, actual working yards, working humps, you name it, way better. But yeah, it's anyways. So yeah, that's Train Sim World. Now, Railroader. That's coming out in 2023. That's the one where I made was a lot of basis on the decision I made to pull back from Run 8 for now. So what had happened was I knew Railroader was coming out. I tried to, in my best estimation from all the information that I had, wanted to see what was coming down the pipe for Run 8. I wanted to see, I know there's a route that's coming out for Fitzgerald Sub, which was in the southeast United States, which I was modeling at the time. And I was interested in that. I wasn't too sure if it was going to be good for my workload or whatever, and something that was fun to run. But I looked at that, and I looked at Railroader, and I realized, well, I don't know what's coming out, but there's not really small regions that I can be certain about, except here comes Railroader, and it looks pretty convincing. And it looked kind of cool. And I saw the trailers for it, and I thought to myself, I can see myself getting into this. And like I said, it's kind of cooled off the period where, because it's I mean, life's going by faster than ever. The older you get, the more I find life goes by quicker. And 2023 is going to be here before you know it. So, but still, despite all that, Railroader, the buzz how I felt about it has kind of died off a little bit, just because other than the screenshots, which look great, I haven't really seen much more gameplay. I haven't seen any live streams. There hasn't been much. That's okay, because that means they're developing. But and I haven't really followed the Discord either. I was for a while, but I haven't really cared too much about it, to be honest. So it is what it is, and my fear of Railroader is, despite the good graphics, I think it's going to be a little too small. I think what's going to happen is there's going to be a lot of repetitive tasks, and I could get bored of it after a while. So that's my only fear of that. So that's the way I look at it right now. Unfortunately, I have to go this way because I can't expand the window that way. Okay. So the things that I look at right now, as far as, well, this is what's out here and what's coming up. What room? What can I bring into the game, or what can I bring in to develop, or what can others do? I've had a lot of different ideas, but these are things to consider. So you have game engines and versus editors. The reason why not every now, some people decide not to put editors in despite the capability of the game engine. For example, Run8 is one of them. They've decided to keep the editors to themselves. It may not be as user-friendly, or they just want to control the content. They have every right to. It's their sim. They can do whatever the hell they want, despite the fact, that there was a software development kit promised way back when, or wasn't promised. It was, I guess it was promised. It was at least on the table, but it never came out, and then eventually it was taken off the table. Game engines, such as Unreal and Unity, have worlds that are developed within the game engine itself. When that happens, it gets very difficult to bring editors in. Now, that's not trying to make an excuse for a train sim world. What that means is it's very difficult to edit the routes themselves. What comes into play is data, which can be edited, which in many cases a train sim world can take data such as where a train begins and starts, what are the AI trains, where are the certain cars, where are they located, etc., etc. There are ways to make an editor within something that still has a game engine. And I'm not saying to edit the actual route, but to actually edit the scenarios to allow you to do things. So editors versus game engines is a big thing that you will see in a lot of these things. Microsoft Train Simulator had its own editors. It didn't have a game engine. Trains has its own editors. It doesn't have a game engine. Now, they may have game engines per se, but they're usually written in the code that comes with it. I'm not too sure about Run 8. I don't know how. I don't know the current game engine that's being used by Run 8, but whatever it is, the editors are not part of it. They are. They can be used by multiple. I mean, if you take a look on their page, they call them root slaves. There's all kinds of people who are listed as root slaves. If that's the case, then either the entire game is being shared, or the development of the game is being shared all over the place, or they have access to some kind of editor. Honestly, I don't know, and even if I did, I couldn't tell you. But trust me when I say I don't know. I have no idea. And the reason why I can't tell you is because I'm on a non-disclosure agreement still to this day. I never played with an editor. I never seen an editor. I have no freaking clue how it works or anything like that, nor did I really ask, to be honest. So I know nothing about it, and nor could I share it. Freight Yard Manager does have the ability to edit. It is based on this is a freeware/shareware program that uses Google Maps, and there are ways to do it. However, to become part of the Freight Yard Manager, you have to pass through a custodian who either grants you permission to become part of the World Network, and there's only one that I'm aware of. There's only one network, and so you become part of it and whatever. The one thing I used to try to do with Freight Yard Manager, and thus I, got frustrated with the leadership there. But that's, I wanted to see an improvement. I wanted to see bringing in AI, bringing in other train sims to try to link up with Freight Yard Manager. They didn't see it that way. They didn't want that. They didn't see the need for the AI and all that other stuff. Well, I saw it as, okay, well, it means if you got free time, you can do whatever the hell you want, but if you don't have free time, forget it, you ain't going to run the big stuff. So, yeah, that's why Freight Yard Manager was never for me. Like I said, Train Sim World, you can do the editing. Railroads Online, you can edit the things right in it, because what happens there is the world, you can't edit the world, but everything that you build, the tracks and everything like that, are assets. So it's asset based. When you have an asset, it's just basically like a piece that you put in. Like there's a lot of survival games, even the one I play, where trees fall down, you cut the trees down, they fall down, they disappear, they become part of wood in your inventory and all that other stuff. Those are assets. Those aren't actually built into the ground. So it's a lot different. Railroader, that's totally game engine driven. I don't think there's going to be any editors, but who knows? Expansions, current sims. So we look at where expansions are. Microsoft Train Simulator Open Rails, constantly going to expand and do different things. The big difference is you cannot expand routes. You can join routes and merge routes, but there is a limitation on how big you can make a route. I know some people have done various things, but they take up a lot of resources the bigger they are, because you have all those resources. I don't know if Open Rails has improved upon that or not, but everybody has to have the same one. Everybody has have the same content. There are ways around it, but anyways, trains, pretty much the same thing. I would say same thing on that. Run 8, when it comes to expansions, they are trying to expand, but it's slow. It's a slow process. They're a small team. Freight Yard Manager, it expands whenever, but they're so. I mean, they got so much in North America already done. Who knows if they really expand much anymore? Eric can come into a play. Who knows? Train Sim World, whatever. Uh, expansions. I mean, they don't really expand anything. They just create another. They just create another world. Nothing really joins in and merges or anything like what Run 8 can do. Run 8 has the advantage of merging into and actually expanding a network. There's advantages and disadvantages to that. The advantages is you can get to run and have a lot more routes in one area and have a much bigger simulation with much more people capable of multiplayer and all this other stuff. The disadvantage is when you're doing single player or you're a smaller network, say like the server that I had, it's very difficult to manage that big of a region. So you're looking for smaller regions, and even some of the smallest regions out there really are too big. So Railroads Online, so Railroads Online, there's not really any expansion talks, although there might be, I don't know. Railroader hasn't come here. There's no talk about expansion too much right now. It may happen. It can happen. Who knows? Hard to say. 2D simulators is an interesting one. This has to do with Freight Yard Manager. There's room for better 2D simulators. There's room to take on that. The thing is, a lot of the demand is on 3D simulators because there's so many good choices for 3D simulators that are already out there. Okay, I'm just reading about the Joliet sub and all that other stuff. So yeah, you can do these mega routes, but then again, you have to have them all and blah blah blah. Everybody has to have it, and how you save and continue or whatever. I mean, multiplayer. I don't know what Open Rails can do. I really don't know. It's not as smooth as Run 8. Neither is Railroads Online. Railroads Online is fairly new. Doesn't beat Run 8. 2D simulators. This is where I see the potential. It can beat out Train Sim World. Or not Train Sim World. Sorry, it can beat out Freight Yard Manager. That is the only 2D simulator that's out there. Out of the ones that I have on this list. AI trains, dispatching, and multiplayer. Run 8 is the king of it. Trains is pretty good. Multiplayer Run 8. Trains can do it. It's still behind Run 8. Open Rails can do it. It definitely has AI trains since Microsoft Train Simulator. I don't know if it's improved on some of the AI logic because trains used to get stuck in Microsoft Train Simulator. I don't know if the meets are a little bit more smooth because of it. I don't know if there's any dispatching ability in Open Rails. Assuming that there's multiplayer, I guess there would be. Don't know too much about it. Run 8's pretty good at that. Freight Yard Manager, not really applicable. They do have AI trains that run in. They have working AI humps. I think they were AI humps. Now you got to operate them, but they do have a hump that works. Dispatching, you get to flick your own switches in Freight Yard Manager. Train Sim World has AI trains. It's more scripted. There's no dispatching. There is no multiplayer. Railroads Online has multiplayer. It has self-dispatching between whoever's in the multiplayer at the time. Definitely has multiplayer. Not as good as Run 8, especially on the client end. Railroader does have multiplayer, or will have multiplayer. I've seen scenes of it. It looks fine on the client end. It looks good on the server end. It looks comparable to Run 8. From what I can tell. I don't know for sure until I get it, but everything I see so far looks at or as good as Run 8. I'm not going to say better because I don't know that. I don't see better. It's hard to get better than Run 8, to be quite honest. So as what I've seen from Railroader, it looks good. We'll know more once I get my hands on it in 2023. Size of worlds and oh yeah, dispatching and switching was the other one. So switching is an interesting one. I didn't cover this the switching part aspect of it. Microsoft Train Simulator, you can do switching. You can have activities or you can have open-ended activities. It is possible. Trains, you can do switching. It's no problem. These are all manual tasks. Run 8, ditto. You can do switching. Freight Yard Manager, of course, is very good at switching. You can do all the switching you want. Train Sim World is all based on scripts and activities. Railroads Online, you can do all the switching, wherever you need to or wherever you want to. There's no limitations on it. Railroader, you can do switching based on the demands of your switch list. However, you are able to switch however you see fit. So that's really good. The reason why I bring up switching is because there is no AI switching at the moment. The closest thing that comes to it is trains, where there is scripted switching, but there is no technically AI switching. Going into the size of worlds and expansion, Microsoft Train Simulator, again, you can have big worlds, you can have bigger worlds, but they're going to take up a lot of more resources, and do you want to build all those worlds, or collaborate or whatever talking about? I've heard different things, but it's definitely improved with AI. Well, that's good to hear. Trains, same thing. As far as the expansion, the size of worlds, the expansions or whatever. I'm trying to think of where I said about the size of worlds and expansion. You can't expand, like you can't connect worlds. Trains, you can't connect worlds. So that's what I think I mean by expansion. Run 8, you can do. I think it's capable of unlimited expansion of regions. What we don't know is, does there come a hard limit? But right now, the Southwest region is the biggest one. If you own, you could basically run approximately 10 hours on from one end to another, from Los Angeles all the way out to Needles. Not Needles, sorry. Beyond that, wherever the hell it is, Seligman Sub. I don't have Seligman Sub, so I don't know the. Basically, is it Needles or no? It would be Seligman. I don't know what the hell it is, but it's somewhere. It's huge, and it can probably get much bigger. And I'm sure it will if the guys in the Southwest have anything to say about it, because I see them expanding that before they expand or they create other smaller regions. But yeah, it is what it is. Freight Yard Manager, it can expand it can expand and add nodes to the network and whatever. So it's capable of expanding. The size is basically you're dealing with one map at a time. But you're fine. I mean, it can go from one map and then load up another one and all this other stuff. Train Sim World, the size of the routes are much smaller because of the amount of detail in them. It is much harder to make the routes. For example, a big example, Cajon Sub. Cajon Sub is compressed. It is not the actual size of the Cajon Sub when compared to Run 8. Run 8 is the actual one-to-one size. Train Sim World compresses the Cajon Sub. So because of that, that tells you right there they're at a resource hit. They either can't do it or they have a budget or I don't know what. I've seen routes such as Hamilton Harbor where they just put this invisible wall and they don't even bother putting all the They don't even bother putting all the switching tracks that are available in the harbor, and maybe they don't like, maybe they don't want to do water. I don't know what the hell. That could be too. Maybe it's has something to do with modeling the water. I don't know. But yeah, Train Sim World's, like I said, hot garbage. I don't think very highly of it. I watch it. I wait to see if somewhere somehow they're actually going to try to make an honest effort to try to make it better. But I don't think that's going to be happening. It's just people are going to buy it because they're going to buy it, and I guess they're happy. But whatever. I'll stay clear of it. Railroads Online, as far as wow, it's 10 o'clock already. Railroads Online, because of the size of the world, it's not that big. They have talked about expansion, though. So we'll have to see. Railroader, size of the world is very small, but it is very detailed, and they have talked about expansion. So that's something you probably will see at some point. I don't know more about that. And this is from information as of a couple months ago. I haven't seen all the Q&As and everything else that's been going on probably for the past month. So I don't know. Hey, Quincy. Simograph and combined with UE is Train Sim World's issue. Yeah. But so that's basically going over the various simulators and the strengths and weaknesses of them. So this is where I look at it, and I look at what I look for in gameplay personally, and I'm always going to look for what I look for when it comes to what I have my eye on and what I see as room for an opening. So as I said before, Railroader is something that is very promising. But the cautionary tale of Railroader, for me, is it going to become stale real quick? Is it going to become repetitive? Is it going to be challenging enough? It already has a built... the other thing that Railroader has and nobody else has is the way the switch list has, and an interactive switch list. It is really, really cool. I like it. That's one thing that it has that nobody else I have seen that has. I mean, yeah, you can program them in the Microsoft Train Simulator Open Rails, and you can have them in. You can definitely have them in Train Sim World, but the way it's interactively dependent upon what's happening in the dynamic world, that's important. So it's very good. But that being said, is it going to become repetitive? The way it starts is it brings in traffic at an interchange, and then you got about like 13 miles to play around with over a compressed clock. So the clock is compressed, so it's not technically 1-to-1 because it's in compressed fast clock time. So it's it's interesting in that respect. So I see that when I look at the two programs that are high on my list of stuff that I look at is Run 8 and Railroader. Run 8, of course, I have the most experience with. Run 8, on their other hand, have regions that are too big. So there's a happy medium in between, and I think there's room to take advantage of that happy medium. So when you have something that has a lot of tracks in Run 8, various Run 8 regions, where you have a Railroader that might have a short line, there's a happy medium. There's a lot of Class 1s that have relatively scenic areas, but not as much yards or not as much switching. those are those small regions that I am hoping that Run 8 does develop. And I do hope that they develop them, because I would much rather somebody develop them than to see what happens. Trains really, like, as far as where they can go from here. Open Rails, I don't know where Open Rails is going. I haven't seen anything groundbreaking. Obviously, they got a lot of programmers. I don't know if it's collaboration or what it is, but I see it. I see it being restricted by that backwards compatibility of Microsoft Train Simulator. So it's not really its own train simulator. If they had built their own train simulator as a group of people, as opposed to doing whatever, but I mean, they do whatever the hell they want. They're all passionate, so whatever. But I could see a group of people getting together, and what Railroader did, find one guy who knows how to program and a few guys who know how to do art, and get them all together, and then all of a sudden you got a simulator that's on the horizon that looks very promising. So trains, I mean, they're going to come out with better versions, better graphics. That's the one difference, is I find the graphics has really gotten better with trains over the years versus Microsoft Train Simulator / Open Rails. I haven't really seen much of a change there. Trains looks a lot better. Run 8 continues to expand. They will continue to do things at their pace. They're a much smaller team. They don't seem to have that much of an expansion philosophy, or being able to expand to other groups. I don't know what the reasoning behind that is. They keep things tight within themselves, as opposed to, you think somebody that's been around for 10 years would be able to expand much better and teach others how to do things, so that more people can get involved in it. And I understand that they want to. I understand that Run 8 wants to keep their pay structure, or their business model, so where they're making money. I totally get that, because in the end of the day, I mean, if you're gonna spend a lot of time, you want to be able to make money too. But they keep it very tight. So because of that, it doesn't expand as quickly as. I mean, it's going to take forever. I kind of put it to a similarity of the Model Railroad Club that I belong to, because they want to have 6 levels. They've been building it for, I don't know, 20 years or something like that. I mean, a lot of people have already passed away from that club, and there might be a lot more pass away before they ever get to the roof. So, Freight Yard Manager, as far as what they have capable, they're capable of much more. It all depends on what they want to do with it. I haven't heard anything. I mean, I guess they're happy doing their thing, so nothing's making news that I've seen. So Train Sim World just keeps pumping out garbage, more routes, more content. You could say, okay, well, that's good, because they're giving you much more prettier things to look at and prettier engines to drive and stuff like that, but what's it really doing? I mean, it's just, okay, here's another route, have fun. This is your train sim world. I mean, yeah, it's not a train sim. It's I don't know what you call it. I don't think very highly of it. Put it that way. Do they have the potential? Absolutely. They could do a lot of things. They could have done a lot of things in Train Sim World 2, let alone version 3, but they really haven't. They're more focused on lighting, and their lighting fixes aren't really that great anyways, so whatever. Railroads Online, still fairly new, small group. I'm not too concerned about them. They will do whatever they do. They are still working on it. So it's hard to gauge their potential so much. And Railroader is so new now that it doesn't really matter. I mean, whatever they bring to the table, it'll be interesting to see, and I'm sure they will go and expand it from there. But Railroads to be fair to Railroads Online, they did have a big, huge roadmap of different engines that they wanted to put into the game, so they were more interested in content as of different engine types that they were going to bring into the game, as opposed to, I don't know what, expanding worlds and expanding features and stuff like that. I don't really know, but I know they are talking about splines and a few other things to try to make the multiplayer experience much better as well. So where I see those potentials, I see a lot of things down here on the bottom, what I'm looking at. So, editors versus game engines. I haven't even developed a 3D game myself. So, to say that I'm all of a sudden going to develop an editor is highly unlikely. I think it's out of my realm, nor is it something that I particularly would want to do as a business model. I would much, if I'm going to use a business model, period, I may not even go that route. Game engines would be the way to go if I'm going to go 3D. I would want to be able to expand. I would want to be able to do things to allow different revenue streams to not only base off of what I already have, but to be able to continue to move on. So these are things I'm thinking of as far as what's out there and what I can do. I've already talked about the 2D simulators. There is a potential for that. The difference is, how do you want to do it? Now, I was looking at drone photography, because I do have a drone, and I was looking at that. I wasn't too impressed with the drone shots I had with the shadows and that. I was keeping it a little bit lower. I might try some high altitude flights at some point, but I also may use Google, and I may go the shareware route. I may go the instead of doing that, I may go like a shareware type thing and try to have something that is not so much like Freight Yard Manager, but is a one-to-one simulation of basically trains running through Google Maps that can be zoomed in and out and all that other stuff. And then just basically put those screens into there, have them zoom in, zoom out, and then that wouldn't be in so much a game engine, or though it could be put into a game engine, and then it would go from there. AI trains dispatching. So I have my own methods. I'm very proficient at dispatching. I have my own methods for dispatching. I also can incorporate my own AI dispatching logic into that. When I go a little bit further, when I talk about AI, I think the big one that's missing is AI switching. I think AI switching is very important if you're going to have a big world. I think it's very important, whether it be a 2D simulator or a 3D simulator, to have the ability to AI switch. I think it is crucial to have those. That's my opinion. That's the thing that's lacking. AI switching is not rocket science. When you're on a train and you know what tracks, there's a limited number of variables that you have. Now, that's not to say that a real-world train can run AI. A real-world train cannot run AI. A real-world train should not have anything less than 2 crew members. They need people to run, because a real-world train is a lot different than a simulator. A real-world train, you're dealing with people, you're dealing with cars, you're dealing with idiots, you get trespassers, you're dealing with all kinds of things that can happen in the train that only you can feel as a human being, that a computer is not going to be able to detect. I think Quincy can attest to that. So having the little AI and all that other crap inside the trains is just for big railroad companies to make a lot of money. What I'm talking about here is in the realm of simulation, and I think AI switching is extremely important because it takes place of the manpower. It allows a program like Train Sim World to suddenly not become a pay to play or a time to play. It actually allows you to take over and run whatever the hell you want in whatever group you want, because then you can have different worlds that have different things. The size of the worlds, the expansions, whatever. I believe they should all be expanded. I believe they should all be as big as possible. But if I was to look at a 3D size, or if I was to look at something that just without the AI switching, if I was to look at something just as on a simulator basis, I would want to have something that is smaller, or at least less busy than the typical Run 8 route, and busier than what is being proposed by Railroader. So something in between. I know some of those areas in and around my area. I definitely could go that route. But there's a lot of ways that I can go personally. I think about them all the time. I've gone through different brainstorms of various things that I was looking at. I was looking at going. The biggest pipe dream that I have ever had was to have and I thought about this about a month or so ago. I was thinking about having a generator or something that actually was 3D, that somehow built procedurally generated scenery. So totally not real world, but actually procedurally generated. And you would have to survey the area, get the tracks in, and then you would, start in the 1800s or whatever. So you'd start with the steams or whatever, and you could have those 3D switching and all that other stuff. So you would have the Tycoon version, but it would be 1-to-1. But it would be more than just that. It would actually become a train simulator as well, because if you were to fast forward through time and then you wanted to just stop at a certain era and run it, you could run it at a certain era. So you could basically play as a tycoon and watch your whatever empire or whatever develop, and then once you got to an era you liked, and then it's just like, okay, well, I like this era, I'm gonna run this as a server now, and then just go boom, and then have a train simulator. I've looked at the 2D simulators, particularly the big one is a replacement for Train Sim World. I've also looked at yard things, although to be quite honest, I found when I was in Run 8 and when I was at Waycross, one of the things I was finding was I was getting bored of being stuck in that yard. No matter how big it was and no matter how much I could put into it, I was getting bored. And I felt that. I felt more like a job. The things about model railroad clubs that are really cool is that when you go to a model railroad club, you sign up on the board. You might get one job or you might do another, but you might, hey, I feel like running a train tonight instead. So you get to do that, but then other people are going to take the jobs that, were up anyways. There's going to be enough people to run the various jobs, so you're going to have dispatchers, and maybe one night you feel like being a dispatcher. Haven't been a dispatcher in a long time. That's the kind of thing that I'm looking at. I'm looking at the model railroad type aspect, not a model railroad simulator, although I could go that way, I suppose. Be kind of interesting. In theory, you could probably do that in a 2D simulator. If you're going to go model railroad, heck, why not just do it in a 2D simulator and have all those AI things as part of it? There's a lot of ways to go there, and you don't really need a game engine to do it necessarily. So there's possibilities there. There's all kinds of possibilities. There's a lot of room, I think, for development to happen. My goals right now are to continue to do what I'm doing right now and just think about these things, not really put pen to paper so much other than this and go on live streams and get the ground running. I'm looking at potentially getting a programmer, potentially getting a graphic artist, if I can't do it myself. I think I can do the programming end, but hey, if somebody else is better at it, go nuts. I'll just manage the project. Anyways, that's it now. I'm going to close it. I don't need to save this. This is good enough as it is. Let me just take a look at the comments before I end it tonight, if there's any other comments or whatever. But tri-state merge route, yeah, you could definitely merge. I don't care about that. Whatever, that's old. I don't even think it exists anymore. Oh, I guess it does. I'm sorry. Yes, it does. Oh well. Don't know enough about it. It's probably more like just like the other ones. Not much of a difference. Going to prove on graphics and a derailment system. I'm like, screw this. Version 1.6 or 1.7. I don't know. Okay. Absolutely not. Train Sim World, Sean. Sheeman Hill was a dumpster fire. They're all dumpster fires. Train Sim World still remains in a broken state from 2. That's why they abandoned Train Sim World 2 and made 3, thinking folks would fall for the dokie, knowing the game was still broken. Oh hell, we have an onboard babysitter. With what do you think PCTC is? Yeah. Oh yeah. Single man crew with their joysticks. I do it a time till the railroad did away with. Got sick of calling, thinking, or runaway train, not seeing anyone in the windows. Blow up. Betty worked for a time. I don't even know where blow up Betty. I don't know. I think you're talking. Yeah, you're talking about the what do you call it? Those the remote units. I know what you're talking about. But yeah, that's pretty much my going through the various train simulators. And yeah, there's the other one, but there's other ones out there that I haven't touched that I really don't know much about to really comment on. So this is more the ones that I know of, and I think I have enough experience with Train Sim World, and what I've seen and heard from there forward, that nothing really has changed. Run 8, I certainly have enough experience, and I think I can make a very easy opinion of Run 8. Freight Yard Manager, ditto. Open Rails, that's a tough one. I'm not really involved with it right now. But from what I've seen, there's nothing that has ever gotten my attention that I'm aware of that has made Open Rails groundbreaking, or something that's drawn me, all of a sudden got my attention. It's like, oh wow, maybe I should look into Open Rails again, or Microsoft Train Simulator or something. I'm not, believe it or not, I'm not too worried about the graphics so much. I'd go back to Microsoft Train Simulator if it could run like Run 8. Honestly, that's a no-brainer for me. If I could put it this way, if I could do everything that I could do in Run 8 in Microsoft Train Simulator / Open Rails, it'd be a no-brainer. Same thing goes with trains. It'd be a no-brainer. But the problem is, there's really no interfaces in trains that does everything. And yes, you can have multiplayer, and yes, you can do certain things, and there's certain logic commands and all that other crap, but there's really not a means to interface with it or be able to do the things that you need to do to get it, you know, to really come that close to it. It's just not. And I think Run 8 has the ability to even go even further in their features. I would say though, like as far as what I'm looking at or what I'm citing towards is I'm looking at two things, or a few things actually. I'll say a few things. Railroader's the one that I have my eye on for 2023. Once Railroader hits and I'm able to play it, I'm going to get a sense after a while how much legs I'm going to have with it. Then once that happens, we're going to be basically, I would say, at least 3 more months from now. What Run 8 does between now and those 3 months is going to pretty much decide on which direction I take from there. So once that's taken place and I know the direction, that's when I can really say, okay, this is the plan, this is how I'm going to do it, and stick with it and see what happens. I'm certainly open for ideas. I'm always open for ideas. I have a Discord for that, for ideas. I mean, right now there's a lot of joking around going on or whatever. That's fine. I don't care. There's nothing much happening. But I'm always open for ideas. I try to get those same ideas going over at Train Sim, but I get very little response. So I really don't know as far as... Jesus Christ. Answer the phone. It's not even my phone. I should unplug that thing. Anyways, let me read this chat here. I think Train Sim World did get right that Run 8 surely needs Train Sim World schedule system is gold. Yeah, that's cool. Well, their schedule system. The problem with their schedule system, it's just script. I don't know if I would say if it's gold. It's more of a script. It's a timing script because the trains run at the same time every time. I mean, it's okay. It's better than nothing, but yeah, I mean, and that's been suggested to Run 8 for a long time. They were supposed to do a Mobetta train scheduling system a long time ago. Honestly, it's not a big deal for me. To the point now where I really don't care, because I can just manually spawn whatever I want. I'd much rather have a smaller region where I don't have to worry about the scheduling systems, to be honest. Well, no, I mean, right now I'm not worried about. You talk about Scott about Bakersfield. I'm not doing it. I'm not doing anything until Railroader. So as far as holding me, this is why I could have easily held on to do stuff at Waycross. I just got to the point where I was just like, okay, well, this is becoming more of a job. I'm not really interested right now. And No, I wasn't going to invest in another route or pay $40 just to get another route to see, you know, what it is I could or couldn't do. I could always do that down the road possibly, and it's not saying that I won't. Um, Bakersfield has been recommended to me for a while, and I've seen the track maps for Bakersfield, and the way I look at, and I mean, you can create smaller regions within big maps. Hell, I can do the Mojave sub if I really wanted to. And there's a lot more AI options that allow that to happen. So I could easily take a section, create spawn points, and do all kinds of things. There would be a lot of setup involved. But what else is new? I certainly have all the train data for California as I do for the southeast, even a lot of the northeast. It's not a big deal. What I'm looking at is something that is all basically not as difficult to set up. So I'm looking for something that doesn't require, say, you, who unfortunately did all this data entry, which I really didn't use that much. I used it for a little bit and then I just got tired of it. So I feel bad about that. But I want something where you have a main line that can be a class 1, but might only have, say, 40 trains a day or something like that. There's a lot of places that don't even have that much. I mean, there's transcons in Canada that probably fit that bill. And I'm sure there are lines in the United States that fit that bill as well. There's not everything has to be a transcon, a United States transcon, let's say. So what I'm talking about, and not everything has to be industrial powerhouse either. So having a yard that might have, like, the biggest yard in a whole region can be, say, like a nice 15 track yard or less, and maybe one big industry and a couple, a few small industries spread out across 30 miles or even 60 miles, and that's all you need. Like, basically a switching district. Each yard can be, you have a yard as a switching district, and they go out and they're able to reach out, or you can be a main line, or if you want to dispatch it, you can have a little bit of fun with that through the through traffic or whatever. But the problem with a lot of those trains is you're still dealing with a transcon. It's a northern transcon, but you're still dealing with a transcon, albeit not as busy as the southern transcon as far as the stuff that's going to and from LA, or just Barstow or whatever, across to the east. So something smaller. There's plenty of different regions out there that they can do, I'm sure, but that's up to them. Maybe the market's not as strong as them. Maybe everybody likes the bigger routes. It seems like a lot of people do. So I could be in a minority there. So who knows? Let's see. Let's see what else we got here. Yeah, script works. I'm not a big fan of script, though. I mean, it's good in practice, but script with ability to take data and apply it. Like the best example out there is Train Dispatcher 3. You can set up all the trains for various start times, work conditions, all kinds of things. But to be able to use TD3, which can basically take that and randomize it according to parameters. So that's what makes that interesting. So then you get the variation, which is good. Random factors are very important. It keeps it becoming too repetitive, but it's also good to have a flow that you're used to, or like a schedule or a call time that you're used to. So some randomization's good, but some familiarity is also good. So having a little bit of a nice mix. What Run 8 does is it just throws shit at a wall and just says, here you go. that's not the way it should be. Obviously, that's nowhere near what a prototype would do as far as trains. So there's really no, honestly, the mainline trains in Run 8, there's very little consideration given to them. They're just there. The engines that are on them are just, here, what type of engines could be here? You pick the engines and boom, it just throws whatever engines it feels like. It puts all the loads on the front, puts all the empties on the back. The tags are cookie cutter. You pick 9 tags and it just splits it up evenly, when of course half of them are loads, half of them are empties, depending upon which way you ordered it. There's hardly very little thought given to the through traffic. All the emphasis is on what the locals do, which is why I always did the mini the fake industries. The fake industries got around that crap, because then at least the industries and the way the tags are applied to in industries are much more realistic. So it handles the industries much better. If it didn't handle the industries properly, I would have skipped all those, and I would have found a way to do RTS software version 2 way back in version 2. Instead, I let it slide, and I went with what it did because it was better than the original Run 8 or RTS software, I should say. And then, from there, version 3 with all the AI stuff, it just, it made it totally obsolete. So the RTS software really didn't have a place. Single track manageable industrial yards at both ends. Yep. Single track manageable industry yards at both ends. Yeah. Trona's a nice one. See, I don't mind Trona, and I don't mind short lines either, because obviously I'm getting Railroader. But I know what I'm getting with a Railroader too. I know it's going to be a short line. As far as Run 8 goes, I've always avoided Trona simply because I didn't really want to run just industries. Now, the big difference as to why I would do it with Railroader is the graphics. So the graphics in Railroader makes it interesting because it applies a new layer of realism, potentially. Now, I'm not saying that the physics are going to be like Run 8, and I don't think they will be. In fact, they're not. I know they're not. I know they're similar, but they're not meant to be. They're meant to be a hybrid of what you would expect in something like a Run 8 versus being able to just enjoy, which I kind of like. As somebody who's not running real trains for a living or anything like that, I can appreciate that. I can still appreciate Microsoft Train Simulator, even though, the physics are way wonky, or Train Sim World or whatever. Hell, Train Sim World. Had Train Sim World been able to do some of the things that Run 8 had, and I'm not talking about physics, but I'm talking about being able to, have some type of editing where you could have, um, you could have industries that actually worked, and actual AI traffic that worked, not just scripted traffic, but something like that. That'd be really, really interesting. And it would be much more interesting based on the fact that the graphics are that much more stunning. So, graphics do play a big role, and I think that's what makes it more interesting than Trona, for me personally. But it is something. Ideally, what I'm looking for, and I always have looked for, is I do enjoy like a single track mainline. And yeah, something similar to Bakersfield. Bakersfield's not too far off. The other thing about Bakersfield is when you get into a route that you just choose part of a region, especially a big Southern California region like that, you're basically restricting who can join you, because only the diehards, or the ones that will go on to other servers and get their, especially the ones who have a lot of different routes, they're not going to want to just come on and join a server that has one route just because that's all you want to handle. They're going to want to be on a server where they can run whatever the hell they have in their library. This is why small regions change things. Because when you have a smaller region that's independent of everything else, and you've got everything that can give you, that makes it a lot different. Railroader falls into that same category. Because everybody who gets Railroader is going to have the same thing as everybody else. So the multiplayer is, you're not going to be cutting people off because you want to run a smaller region that's more manageable. This is the same issue that the Southwest server, the former RTS server, has faced for a long time. Is when all these regions keep on growing, it makes it more difficult, and less people may come up because what's different? What makes it different than any other? So you know what I mean. But hey, Robert. So, yeah, anyways, that's about it. I've gone like 43 minutes. I can't believe I've gone that long. But, like I said before, just to close up what I was saying. Right now, I'm not interested in running any other train simulators until 2023, until I have a look at Railroader. I'm going to see how that goes. Railroader is going to be something I'm going to see how much legs it has on it. It's a stopover to see what Run 8 can possibly bring out down the road, if they are going to even pump out anything. And I don't know what they have in store. They talked about more regions and all this other stuff when they released version 3, so far they've had one. I don't know if they have smaller regions in mind. I don't know what they have in mind, to be quite honest. There's others. The Northeast has theirs. Or sorry, not the Northeast, sorry. The Southeast has the expansion of the Fitzgerald. I'm curious to see where that goes. I'll be more interested in a track map to see what's there too. But to see what happens there, let me see. I have all the Run 8 routes. No, I don't. I'd be fine with any location RTS choose, but then again, I'm Yeah. Everybody's there's a lot of people. There's some that, I mean, Switcher was another one that did a lot of work on. I'm sure he had a lot of different ones, but he'd go to other servers too to if he needed to be or whatever, or did single player. But anyways, yeah. So I'm just gonna wait it out. I'm gonna wait and see what happens down the road. I am perfectly content with Medieval Dynasty. In fact, I can't wait to end this stream so I can go do some Medieval Dynasty, because I got the itch in that again. Played it earlier today, um, but yeah, I'm gonna wait it out, wait and see what happens. If nothing happens and I get bored of Railroader, I'm gonna take whatever inspiration I can get from it, or whatever else that comes to my brainstorming mind. But development is something that if eventually there's all these opportunities out there and nobody takes advantage of them, well, somebody's got to develop it. And if nobody develops it, well, then I guess that's means I'm going to have to build it myself. So I'll do something within my capabilities, of course. Obviously, the 2D thing is probably the one that I'm going to be looking at. So I would probably focus on that first. Get a little experience and confidence under myself. I think that'll be the easiest for me to do. And I won't worry about, I'll use Google, I'll use whatever. Maybe I'll just use a simple background or whatever. Just get the logic in there, get the coding in there, see what it's like. Make sure it runs. Demonstrate AI switching, because that's important. If I can't get AI switching to work the way I think I can, then it ain't going to have very good legs. Everything that's going to be very important, whether it be 2D, 3D, whatever. That's very important for me. And then if I can get my feet wet with 3D, or if I can grow on that from there, and then there's enough people that see what I'm doing and want to jump on board and hop on the bandwagon and develop and do graphics or whatever, assets, and who knows? I mean, I didn't talk about Rolling Line too. That was another one that I am familiar with. There's other ones out there too. Obviously, Scott can talk about Rolling Line all day, but apparently it's getting better. I don't know, but it's getting better and it's getting worse in more ways than one. But yeah, who knows? Maybe I'll just build another Rolling Line. Maybe I'll build a clone. I mean, who knows? There's a lot of things I can do, so I'm not too worried about that. But we'll wait and see what the future holds, and just enjoy the ride until then. So, like I said, I'm always open for ideas. You know where to reach me on my Discord. We can have these discussions. We can talk about if you're interested in developing, if you're interested in doing 3D art for this. If I have that interest, then I'm more interested in trying to do something. If I'm going at it alone, then I'm going to take the path of least resistance. So it might be not what you guys are looking for. I'll have to see. But anyways, that's it for now, guys. I'm just reading the last comments, which I had an itch. Nothing seems to draw me at the moment. Well, I have itches, but I got enough things that are keeping my definitely giving me the itches right now. So it doesn't necessarily have to be with trains, but we'll see what Railroader has in store in the new year, and then we'll take it from there and see what else comes down the road from other developers. Anyways, that's it for now, guys. Have a good one, and keep in contact and communication. I don't know how many videos I'm going to have in the next little bit. It might be quiet. I probably won't do live streams for Medieval Dynasty, because there's no interest in that in my base. So anyways, I'm going to go end this now and go play that for an hour or two. Have a good one, guys. We'll talk to you later. See ya.